Hello everyone. With this demonstration, I'm going to explain the workflow that you'll go through in order to complete your Hallmark assessment task. You'll see us here right at our home page. As I've mentioned, all of our weekly work are in Word files, but they also refer to, every one of them refers to course content sessions that all of the links are pulled from. So let's take a look at week 2. So as you will see, I'm sure you've already started reading through this. You're going to study the elements needed to write your HAT assignment. We're going to be pulling work out of session 3 for this week. Some of the resources, I've got some YouTube videos explaining how to set up your paper for APA, how to set up your reference page. And there's also some more supporting documents in the section 3 under APA supporting documents. You're going to need to understand how to use ONET. It's simply an online program that is a source of occupational information. And there is a video on that I've created and then that you should watch. And then there is the actual ONET site itself where you will go through and search for the different jobs that you're going to document starting out in your KSA Inventory worksheet. So I've actually, even though this document is in the session 3 section on our Blackboard, I went ahead and added the link right here. And what you'll do is just follow the instructions on the form that helps you, that we'll use to document that information you're going to need for the first part of your HAT, which is the resume. So let's take a look at that KSA Inventory worksheet. Like I say, you're going to use this document to develop your KSA inventory. That's knowledge, skills, and abilities. You'll use this form to actually start writing what job you've had here. You would list the responsibilities in that job and any KSAs acquired from that job, just as you would in any resume that you would create for a potential employer. Only now you're going to start listing these in chronological order from the most recent to the furthest back that you think that you would need. So you would list the job here, the responsibilities here, and the KSAs for that particular job here. And since this is a word table, those cells will expand as you type into them. So you list whatever jobs that you would deem appropriate that you think you would use to get college credit for. So you do that first. But there's also other ways of getting college credit. You can also list your experiences in any community or religious activities. Say you were a PTA, PTO chairman, that would show leadership ability. Well, that would probably be organizational, but if you're leading a Bible study group at a religious group, or if you worked at a community shelter. So you would list these community and religious activities here, any memberships that you have, and even any hobbies or recreational pastimes. So you would list those here, and then you have other skills also. You would list your expertise in these areas. Say you have any office skills that you have. Let's say you're an expert in Excel maybe, or in creating PowerPoint demonstrations. Do you have any artistic talent that you could pull from? And here's where this could be important: any management related skills that you have had, any communication skills, any public speaking or certain writing skills that you have, technical skills, interpersonal skills. So these are the skills that you would document in this area. So to recap, before we move on, in chronological order from the most recent to as far back as you think you need to go, you would list the job, its responsibilities, and the knowledge, skills, and abilities you acquired from that job, and you would list those in each one of these cells. And then again, your experiences, expertise in these areas, and again, in these actual skills themselves and talents themselves in this area. So after you complete that, like I say, this is a worksheet. You're actually going to turn this information into a chronological resume, most recent first, listing the job and the work-related experiences, then describe the KSAs learned in the process of that work, and you could use bulleted list. So here's where you're actually going to create the first part of your hat, which is a resume that based on this KSA Inventory worksheet. I've actually got a sample file for that, and you should have seen that when you looked at the week 2 Word file. So let's go back and take a look at the sample. So this is the first part of your hat. This is the title page, and it's already in APA format. You'll notice you have a running the header, the running head here, and the title page formatted properly. You would just simply put your name there. So this would be for the entire hat. But the first part of the hat is your resume. So this person developed this resume from the KSA Inventory worksheet, and it's just like any other resume that you might have seen. So it lists the company here, and the dates, and then what the job was, in this case senior analyst, and then what was the responsibilities listed right here. So in the same company there was another job, quality and compliance analyst. There again, the date. And then there was another company this person worked for where they were a quality assurance manager. And there again, listed the KSAs. So the idea is to develop all of this from the KSA Inventory worksheet and use that as the first part of your resume. Actually, starting right here, this reference page would go at the very end of your entire hat. The rest of this would be your work autobiography, where you write about the pertinent aspects of those jobs that you've listed in the resume. So let's go back to the KSA Inventory worksheet that explains the rest of the directions. So you're going to use this list that you've created here as a start to browse through ONET and maybe other college catalogs to find how the expertise you've developed equates to the subjects taught for academic credit. Keep in mind that it is not the experience that is important, but what you learned from that experience. It's not how many years you worked, but what you learned from work. Because this is what you're going to write about in Task 6. So in this case, you're going to define the major expertise from your education, work-life history. You look at the KSAs you learned that support this expertise. You could consider the competencies in your program competency self-assessment that you filled out earlier, and the descriptions in ONET. So you would select one aspect of your experience to write that reflection about what you learned across several jobs. In other words, what's one particular aspect that you're going to write about that you're going to apply college credit for, and then across several jobs, how does that relate? So you will organize this into a lifelong learning narrative with introduction, body, specific examples, and conclusions. There again, you'll structure the writing with Kolb learning cycle. The resulting paper is the lifelong learning narrative, and that will be actually graded from the rubric that is going to be on live text. So you're not alone when you start looking at some of these examples. I've actually got, let's go back to the website, and let's look at the course content sessions for a second. We're going to look, since we're in session 3, let's look at the reference material. Like I mentioned, all these Word files are linked to references in the different session numbers. So we've already looked at this first part of the hat, that was that resume, but there are some supporting documents. If you would look at an entire hat example that includes the resume portion and the narrative, there's a number of examples that you can look through right here. Now I mentioned ONET. Now like I say, there is a video on how to use ONET, and you will use that as a reference. But we can just take a quick look at it, but you should still watch that ONET video. So let's go back to our week 2 document. Mention ONET. Here's the video that you need to watch about how to use ONET. But let's take a quick look at ONET. I'm just going to type in accounting. Hit enter. There's a number of different jobs that you would have had if you have been an accountant over the years. There's bookkeeping, accountants. Find the one that's the most appropriate. But let's look at accountants. It gives you the information that you need that you can also refer to. Here's the task that an accountant performed. Here's some of the technology skills. Here's the knowledge, skills, and abilities. So it's a reference that you can refer to support what you are going to write in your KSA worksheet and your first part of your hat, which is the resume. One thing you'll do is take a look at this job zone. This particular one is in job zone 4, and that's important because you can acquire upper level credit for jobs 4 and 5. If it lists job zones 1 through 3, you can apply for lower level credit. But like I say, there is a video for this, and you need to watch the ONET video on how to use this. It goes through an example of my particular ONET, the jobs that I researched on ONET. One thing you want to do is make sure that you have this reference number that you'll refer to, because you'll need that in your worksheets later. And you need to be able to print this out as a PDF file. So let's go back. So that explains about ONET. This explains about the worksheet. And this explains about the resume itself, the KSA resume, which we've already looked at some examples. And obviously the degree audit is a file that is supplied to you by advising. All you have to do is upload it to its assignment. So to review one more time, the KSA Inventory worksheet is where you start for your entire hat project. You'll develop your inventory here with your job responsibilities and KSAs. You can refer to ONET as a reference for those, and then list any of your experiences or expertise here, any of the talents and skills that you have here, and you'll then use that to create a chronological resume. Okay, so this explains how to use the KSA Inventory worksheet, giving you some examples on an actual first part of the resume, and then showed you where you can find some specific examples of Hallmark assessment tasks that list the resume and the work autobiography section. One thing you'll notice when you look at those files, there is a rubric at the very beginning. That's what I will actually grade it by whenever you upload that document to LiveText. Okay, so that's all for now.